It's my perm day. Hurry home and make me lunch. I accidentally took my mother-in-law's call on speaker. Her voice echoes throughout the venue. At that time, I was at my dad's funeral, and my father-in-law starts shaking in anger. She's yelling about making lunch because she has a perm appointment and skipped my sickly dad's funeral. She told my father-in-law she couldn't attend due to illness. Hearing Mill's comments, my father-in-law was furious. He snatched the smartphone from me and said, "I never thought you'd be this insensitive. We're getting a divorce," and hung up without letting her respond. The funeral proceeded without any issues, but Mill became fixated on me for some reason. My name is Sharon. I'm turning 50 this year. I used to work as a secretary at a certain company, but since getting married, I've been working part-time at a supermarket. My husband is a wonderful man, though somewhat aloof. He doesn't notice if I change my hairstyle or hair color, and he seems uninterested even when I try cooking something different. However, I love how he prioritizes my wishes and steps up to help when needed. We've been married for decades. We chose not to have children, so it's just the two of us living together. We both have medical issues that make it difficult to conceive, so we chose not to have children. My parents respected our decision, but Mill had a different opinion. I can't believe I'll never hold a grandchild while other families have several. Why did he marry her? She would complain. Both my husband and I have a hard time conceiving. Fertility treatments are not only expensive but also physically demanding. We've had a heart-to-heart about it and made our decision, so we'd really appreciate your understanding. I've explained this to my Mill multiple times, but my Mill is an incredibly self-centered and stubborn person, stuck in the old-fashioned belief that a woman's role is to have children. So every time I accompany my husband back to his hometown, she never misses an opportunity to make snide remarks. Honestly, at my age, I've stopped letting it get to me, and I don't even feel the need to tell my husband anymore. Guess she doesn't like that I just brush her comments off. My Mill brings up the topic of children at every chance she gets. She always seems to choose moments when neither my husband nor my father-in-law are around. This is a story from one such day. While my husband and father-in-law were off fishing, I was stuck spending a long morning alone with her. You really don't have a clue, do you? You should show more respect to your husband's mother, she said. I'm sorry, could you tell me what specifically you're unhappy about? I didn't understand why she was in a foul mood. The thing is, I always take care of all the cleaning and housework when we visit my Mill's place. I always do this when we visit, but for some reason, she still finds something to pick on. Why don't you think for yourself a little? Honestly, it's embarrassing not to have kids at your age. I had children when I was in my early 20s, you know. You said before, that's why we are here. Besides, more and more couples are choosing not to have children nowadays. You know, it's not like it was in your mother's time. What's that supposed to mean? Are you saying my thinking is outdated? She hit the nail on the head. My Mill's thinking is indeed quite outdated, but saying that out loud would only set her off. So I held my tongue and said, "Oh no, not at all. I've always thought you were a hardworking person, which is why John turned out so well." Even though I didn't really believe it, I'm not sure if she was satisfied, but she didn't hassle me anymore that day. Although her snide comments don't bother me as much, they still cause some stress. So I was trying to minimize contact with my Mill as much as possible. Yet, she went as far as showing up at our house unannounced. About an hour after my husband left for work, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting any visitors that day, so I thought it was just a salesperson and decided to ignore it. But the doorbell kept ringing over and over. I had a bad feeling about it at that moment, probably because I had been ignoring calls and messages from her recently. However, there's quite a distance between our home and my in-laws' place, It takes about 3 hours by bullet train. So, the thought of her actually coming over never crossed my mind. I'm coming out. Just a moment, I said. When I opened the front door, there stood my Mill, looking like she was ready to breathe fire. Listen, answer the doorbell immediately. How many times do you think I've rang it? Why are you here, Mill? Why are you ignoring my calls? It's not that I was ignoring them. I was just too busy to answer. Too busy. You're just working part-time. That's hardly an excuse. I've been swamped. Sorry. So, what brings you here today? I came to confront you about not answering my calls. But now that I'm here, I might as well come in, right? Before waiting for my response, my Mill pushed her way into the house. What's this? You should wash dishes right after you're done cooking. And look, there's dust over here. Are you even cleaning? And what's up with the way you've arranged these dishes? Isn't there a better way? She started criticizing everything as soon as she stepped inside. I didn't know you'd be coming, so I was planning to clean up later. Must be nice to say you'll do it later. My son is out working, you know. I have work to do as well. So it would be helpful if you could leave sooner rather than later. Oh, are you trying to kick me out? What a thing to say to your Mill. My mother-in-law said this as she walked into our bedroom. Excuse me, Mill. That's our private space. What's the big deal if I go into your bedroom? Oh, is this the kind of pajama you wear? No wonder you don't have grandkids yet. Couldn't you find something cuter? I was so worn out by my Mill's comments that I couldn't even muster a reply. Seemingly satisfied by my silence, she said, well, I did drop by and announced, so I suppose it can't be helped. Just be prepared next time, and left. To be honest, her snide remarks had been wearing me down ever since she surprised us with her visit. It was worse because my dad had been diagnosed with an illness. I had always enjoyed spending time with my dad, and even as an adult, we would go out for meals from time to time. When I found out he was sick and had only a few months left, I spent as much time with him as possible, sharing stories and making memories. Despite being given only a few months to live, my dad survived for a year. He was given only a few months to live, but the fact that he made it a whole year had even the doctors scratching their heads. I think it must have been the love and prayers from your family that pulled him through. I remember that upon hearing those words, my mom and I both broke down in tears. When it came time for my dad's funeral, my Mill was conspicuously absent. Apparently, she suddenly felt unwell. Not sure if it was true or not. I sent her a courteous message anyway. The funeral went smoothly, and as I was taking a breather, I noticed a flood of notifications on my phone. There were dozens of missed calls and messages, all from my Mill. Moreover, the incoming calls exceeded dozens, making me worry if there had been some trouble. Given the sheer number, I asked my husband and my Phil if they'd received anything, but it seems their phones hadn't received any calls. Maybe you should call her back. She might have something she can only say to you, my father-in-law suggested. Just as I was about to call her back, she called me. I hurriedly answered, but accidentally put it on speakerphone. I have a hair appointment today. Hurry home and make my lunch, or I'll be late. Her voice echoed throughout the venue. Although the attendees had left, my husband and father-in-law were nearby. They were startled by the sudden outburst, but to me, it was just another day with my Mill. I just remembered my mother-in-law didn't attend the funeral because she was feeling unwell. I heard you were feeling under the weather. That's obviously a lie. There's no way I would be feeling unwell. Your family's funeral is just a hassle. I had a hair perm scheduled for today. There's no way I'm canceling that. Now hurry up and come home to make lunch. I have to leave in 2 hours. Hearing the voice over the speaker, my father-in-law beside me begins to tremble. I can see his hand clenched in anger. Hello, are you listening? Answer me. Feeling overwhelmed by my father-in-law's intensity, I'm at a loss for words. My mother-in-law then pressures me to reply, Sharon, can I borrow your phone? Sure. This is the problem. I'll have to have a word with our son as well. What are you talking about? Who's this? It's me, your husband. Dad, why are you on this call? I heard the conversation. Is this how you've always spoken to Sharon? No. This is different. What was that earlier talk about? You said you couldn't make it to the funeral because you were feeling too unwell to move. And now you're saying you had a salon appointment. Are you kidding me? What do you think of my sons-in-laws? Oh, come on. I haven't been to the salon in months. A woman has to keep herself up, right? You prefer that, don't you? You're weighing a salon appointment against a funeral. That's it. I've made up my mind. We're getting divorced. Pack your stuff and get out. If you're still here when I get back, there'll be hell to pay. Wait a minute. You can't just drop that on me. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem. Go back to your parents' house. We are definitely getting divorced. Pack your bags before I get home tonight. My father-in-law said that, and then abruptly hung up the phone. I'm sorry you had to hear that. Thanks for the phone. It's okay. I've never seen Dad so mad. Have you been putting up with this from Mom all along? Well, I felt like this since we got married. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to worry you, and I kind of got used to it. Plus, I've been a bit stressed lately with my dad's situation. We're a couple. You should share these things with me. Why? Because it's unbearable for me to see the one I love get hurt. Exactly, Sharon. John always puts you first, so feel free to consult him about anything. Overwhelmed by the grief of losing my father and the kindness of the people around me, I burst into tears on the spot. My father-in-law stayed at our house that night instead of going home because my mill was still squatting there. The reason she doesn't want to go back to her family home is because of her family dynamics. She's always been manipulated by her older brother at her family home. If she were to divorce and go home, there's no telling what they'd say. Knowing this, she absolutely refuses to go back. However, my father-in-law had already anticipated this and seems to be planning to vacate the house after the funeral. For now, he's staying at our place. I'm sorry, Sharon, for troubling you like this. It's not a problem at all. We're grateful for all you've done for us. You're welcome to stay as long as you'd like. It might be hard with my mill around, though. Upon hearing this, my father-in-law appeared to relax, seemingly for the first time, and I was genuinely surprised to find myself capable of light banter. But really, if you're okay with it, you can live here. Sorry to be a bother, but I'll take you up on that. I've talked with my father-in-law before, but we'd never joked like this. I think I can attribute this newfound ease of communication to a clear stand he took against my mill during the funeral. Perhaps, in a strange way, I have something to be grateful for in my mill. I received multiple messages and voicemails blaming me for my father-in-law not coming home. However, my father-in-law had told me to completely ignore them, so I never responded. My father-in-law finally has arrangements to vacate his family home, yet my mill still refuses to leave. It seems troublesome for him to go there, so my husband and I are going to collect his belongings. We knew she goes out for lunch every Wednesday afternoon, so we aimed for that time to go to his old house. Sure enough, the house was empty, and the work went smoothly. His possessions were easily moved within a few hours, and the larger furniture was picked up by a moving service. So, we took his things to our place without issue. That night, my father-in-law received numerous calls from my mill. He picked up, noticeably annoyed. Dad, what's going on? I came home and all your stuff's gone. Where is it? I told you, we're getting a divorce. This is the first step. I'm moving out. My stuff is gone. Now it's just yours. You're vacating this house? What are you talking about? Where will we live? You mean where will you live? I've decided to live with my son and daughter-in-law. What? I never heard about this. Well, you're hearing it now. You've got about a week before you need to leave. Best start making arrangements. But I can't just. You've got a family home you can return to. Or maybe move in with your lover. Listening to their conversation, we couldn't believe our ears. What are you talking about? An affair? I've known about your infidelity for ages. I haven't been cheating. If you say so, fine, then come home quickly and let's forget about moving out. No, it's not that simple. Why not? I had a private investigator look into it. You know, I know you've been having lunch with your lover every Wednesday. And of course, I've got plenty of evidence. I would have asked for alimony. But you have kept the home intact for years. So let's call it even. Just don't ever interfere with me or my son and daughter-in-law again. What? Without me, your son wouldn't even have been born. And you couldn't have lived a comfortable life. After all this, you're doing this to me. I've said I appreciate that. But it doesn't justify cheating. That's betrayal. And I have no intention of spending my life with someone who continually lies to me. With that, my father-in-law forcefully hung up the phone. Well, Mill was having an affair. I had no clue. I didn't want to bother you or John with it. And it's somewhat embarrassing to be seen as a man who gets cheated on, father-in-law said with a small smile. But it was clear that he was hurt by his wife's betrayal. That night, John and I decided to treat ourselves to some high-end takeout sushi. Thanks for ordering this fancy sushi even though I'm going to be a burden living with you. What are you talking about? Your family and families burden each other all the time. Plus, get ready to help out in the kitchen from now on. Cooking? It's been a while. I hope I can still do it. What do you mean? The meals you've cooked for us were always delicious. My father-in-law used to be a chef, and he would sometimes cook for us when my Mill was out. His food was always top-notch. We moved to a new location as John was transferred for his job. We used to live in New York City, but now we moved to rural Nebraska. Of course, my father-in-law would move with us. And we built our new home with that in mind. Finding work in rural Nebraska was challenging due to limited opportunities. So I decided to try something I've always wanted to do, opening a daycare. There were many kids who couldn't go to preschool due to family situations. Plus, even though John and I decided not to have children, I still wanted to interact with kids. So, we decided to set up a child care center in a manner close to volunteering. Thanks to some financial help from John and my father-in-law, my dream came true. Our new community was thrilled, as there was no other daycare around. As for my Mill, it seems she went to confront her lover, who turned out to be married, and got into a huge fight with his wife. Funny thing is, his wife and my mom are friends. At first, I was skeptical, like, could this really be a coincidence? But according to my mom, it seems to be true. My friend was so mad. The neighbors even called the cops. It was such a scene. The situation finally calmed down when the police showed up. But my friend was saying she's definitely gonna sue for damages. I wonder if she can even afford to pay that. You know, I mean, has Mary ever held down a proper job? Doubt she even has any savings. Yep, my mother-in-law, Mill, has never worked a day in her life, having married my father-in-law when they were students. So there's no way she could afford to pay any damages. My father-in-law knew that and chose not to sue her. I heard she's also lost favor with her affair partner because of the commotion. My Mill had hopes of being with her affair partner, but it seems he had no such plans. She's gotten a lot of backlash for stalking, and this has apparently taken a toll on her. My mom said when she saw Mary in town, she's aged so much recently. That's definitely from stress. It's her own fault. But it's hard to watch. The wife of her affair partner is suing her but has no plans to divorce. She plans to make her atone for her sins by supporting her for the rest of her life. If she got divorced, she'd be free. But as long as this affair is hanging over her, she'll have to bend over backward to please her wife for the foreseeable future. As for me, I run a daycare center and enjoy happy days with the kids. There's a bit of a learning curve because they're not my own kids, but I never thought I'd be able to live this kind of life. Kids grow up so fast, and being able to witness it is a blessing. To keep the parents in the loop about their kids, we take photos and videos of the children every day and keep records. Some folks even offer to pay for albums or DVDs. And the kids are thrilled when we gift them during birthdays or special events. It started as a hobby, but the gratitude I receive daily is overwhelming. I've been pondering what more I can do for the community. Meanwhile, for the first time ever, my mill has started working part-time to pay the damages. She's had to move back to her parents' place because she has nowhere else to go. I've been getting texts from her complaining about juggling part-time work and house chores. I was entertained by her messages for a while, but I've decided they're unnecessary for my own happiness and blocked her. I want to focus on my family and the kids from now on. And to make sure I don't end up like my mill, I'm reminding myself to be grateful every day.